Okay, let's recap last week's targets before we get into this week's. So last week we had this essentially a pause in the uptrend. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4 weeks of bullish rally happening week after week. We had an essentially what amounts to almost an inside week. I know we wicked above here at the beginning of the week, and then we rolled back down, and then we came back and closed down here. But we have essentially a momentary pause for the time being in this uptrend last week. We had our targets set up here on the ES. We failed to hit any of these upside targets. We failed to hit any of these downside targets on the week. Tough to do on a doji candle week like this when it's not trending. So essentially what we did was we broke our upside target and then oscillated back and forth in about this 100-point range. The basis for these targets on the upside was that 132-point average that we had going into last week. So if that trend had continued, these targets would have been hit, or if we would have reversed, those targets to the downside would have been hit. But we instead had a doji week on the ES with a bunch of inside days essentially last week, or tight range-based D-shaped profile days. Let's go to the NQ. NQ is a little bit different of a story. It was more of a pronounced uptrend. So if you go back to the 20th here, we broke this upside anchor here in green, this 18,650 level, and we broke through our trigger here, 18,761 to the upside, and we hit target 1, target 2, and then rotated back down, and then did it again in the later half of the week. Okay, so it was more of a somewhat indecisive of a week as we went up, down, up, and kind of oscillated back and forth, but we did end up managing to hit some of these upside targets just shy of that 19,000 mark. We did not close above it. We did whip through it though. Let's go to crude. On crude, we stayed inside. I had a bearish outlook on NQ and ES. I had more of a neutral outlook as we'd already clipped new all-time highs. So on crude, I had more of a bullish outlook on things, as if you flip over to a weekly candle, it looked like this had a good shot at breaking out, but it did not. It had a fake out, breakout, and rotated back down and stayed within this range all week last week. And then we came down here. We did break out of here. There was a trade to be had to the upside here on a smaller time frame. And then there was numerous trades to be had to the downside here as we took out and broke down below the 78.78. And then we clipped this target right here, 77.68, target 1. And then we came down here and took out target 2 on Friday. And then yesterday we bounced back up, target 1, and then back up to the downside anchor here on crude. Okay, that's going to kind of do it for the recap here as we move into this week's analysis. Hey guys, what's going on? Let's dive into this week's outlook for May 27th through the 31st to take the rest of May. So yesterday we had the Memorial Day bank holiday. Nothing really going on yesterday. Tuesday, today, we've got the CB Consumer Confidence at 9 a.m. Wednesday, not much on the docket in terms of red hot news. Thursday, we've got that prelim GDP quarter over quarter, 7:30 a.m., followed by unemployment claims. So that 7:30 news embargo seems to be a directionally shifting move. So we'll be watching that one. Pending home sales, 9 a.m. On Thursday as well. And then Friday, we've got that PCE pricing index. This is the one that economists like to use to kind of gauge inflation on top of the CPI and the PPI, but this is another one that they like to use. This is the this is the one that excludes food and fuel. So they like to look at this one just for the other basket of goods in the economy to measure what inflation is doing. So we'll be on the lookout for that. Let's kind of take a look and see if there's anything else throughout the week that we kind of need to be looking at. We got some FOMC members speaking today. There was a member, Bowman, last week, kind of broke rank a little bit and said that they're willing to look at rate increases because the inflation numbers weren't coming down. So we'll be watching some of this stuff here too. Richmond Manufacturing, Beige Book at 1, Bostic, some more FOMC prelim inventories, crude oil inventories at 10 on Wednesday. So that'll be on the books for us to look at. FOMC Williams. So more FOMC members speaking, personal income, personal spending, Chicago PMI. So again, not a whole lot more high impact news. So we'll just kind of keep our eye on this plus the crude oil inventory. So that's going to about do it for the news for this week to take us through the end of May. All right, so let's go dive into our macro structure here on the S&P 500. You've got this bull flag type scenario happening here, this big massive bullish run followed by the last week and a half's worth of kind of sideways grinding chop, less this big trending downward day that has essentially been erased from the origin. Okay. So we're still grinding in this sideways area on the ES, on the NQ, a little bit different story. Still more of a bullish run, but now we are kind of oscillating back and forth at that upward 45-degree angle. We were at a slight higher angle here, and now we've kind of tapered that off a little bit to the upside, but still very bullish. I'm going to go through these levels here in just 1 second. And then crude, we are on a bearish kind of flag ranging type area for the last several weeks since the beginning of May. And we've kind of been stuck in this range between, call it $80 and $76, give or take. So we'll go through this here on a volume profile here. Okay, so what I'm looking for on the ES this week is I'm looking for, if we're going to really truly do a bullish breakout back to the upside here, this 53.47 needs to break, and then ultimately this weekly high of last week, this 53.68 needs to break. And then if we break these two here, we move up to 53.83 as target one, 5408 or 09, 5409, sorry. And then 5423 is that target 3 to the upside. To the downside, I need to see this untested, essentially last week's or 2 weeks ago's POC and last week's value area low break at 5323. So if we get a nice hard break to the downside here, likely that we're going to come back through and fill this gap up from last week. Down to here to 5,300, retest 5,300. If that breaks, we're likely going to move down to that weekly low for target 2, and then target 3 is this last 2 weeks ago's value area low at 52.63. That's target 3 on the week if we move all the way. We have this big sweeping move to the downside. Okay, let's move over to NQ. NQ's got a little bit more wider of a range here. On the anchors. So the downside anchors, we break back into last week's value area here at 824 half, and then target 1 would be that POC, target 2 would be that 676 half, and then that target 3 would be that last week's weekly low at 18617 half. Okay, and then if we obviously break back down below there, then we would move down into some other targets. But this is fairly conservative given the week is about 550 points average range over the last 5 weeks or so. All right, so let's move into crude. Crude, again, we were in that bearish descent, and now this sideways chop for the last 1, 2, 3, call it 3.5 weeks, essentially. Okay, so what I'm looking for is a break of this 79.30. Come back up here and tag this $80 level. We break through here. Likely we move up to $81 for target 2. Target 3, right just shy of $82. So $81.90 is what we're looking at for target 3. And then if we do happen to have a pretty explosive move here, we could come all the way back up and tag this this little swing high up here, just shy of 83, and fill that other daily gap that we have on the chart here. Okay, so there you have it. That's going to do it for the weekly levels. Watch for the breakouts of these anchors. and play up to the targets, take profits along the way. But those are the weekly levels of interest for the week. So if you want to learn how to trade the volume profile or order flow, be sure to check out my full series on volume profiling and order flow in my YouTube channel, and the link in the article below. I cover the basics to the advanced strategies, and appreciate you guys jumping in, tuning in this week. Thanks.